They don't scream. They don't demand attention. They don't even seem arrogant. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. The covert narcissist wears humility like a weapon. While the grandiose narcissist announces themselves with fireworks, the covert narcissist slips into your life like a shadow, quiet, unassuming, almost invisible. They present themselves as the victim, the misunderstood genius, the quietly suffering soul, hidden manipulation, silent control. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already trapped in their web. Today we're going to unmask the most insidious form of narcissism, one that therapists themselves often miss. We'll explore the 10 warning signs, the psychological mechanisms they use, and most importantly, how to protect yourself from someone who hurts you while convincing everyone else they are the one being hurt. The hidden predator. Most people picture narcissists as loud, boastful, and obviously self-absorbed. They imagine someone who dominates every conversation, who needs constant praise, who makes everything about themselves. But there's another type, one that's far more difficult to detect: the covert narcissist. Psychologist Dr. Craig Malkin describes covert narcissism as narcissism in disguise. These individuals possess the same core traits, the same grandiosity, the same lack of empathy, the same desperate need for validation. But they've learned to hide it beneath a mask of humility and vulnerability. The covert narcissist is the wolf in sheep's clothing, wounded sheep's clothing. They don't demand admiration openly. Instead, they fish for it through self-deprecation. They don't control through intimidation. They control through guilt. They don't explode in rage. They simmer in silent resentment, quiet, toxic, hidden danger. And because they seem so unassuming, so sensitive, so different from the stereotypical narcissist, their victims often don't realize they are being manipulated until the damage is already done. But how do they do it? Victim identity. Have you ever known someone who seems to always be suffering? No matter what happens, they're the one who got treated unfairly. Every story they tell positions them as the innocent party wronged by others. At first, you feel compassion, you want to help. But over time, you notice a pattern: they're never responsible for anything. This is the covert narcissist's primary strategy, the victim identity. While overt narcissists project an image of superiority, covert narcissists project an image of persecution. They collect wounds like trophies and suffering like currency. Their victimhood serves multiple purposes. It deflects accountability. How can you blame someone who's already in pain? It generates sympathy, which is a form of attention and validation. And it creates a power dynamic where you're always trying to rescue them, always trying to make things better. The tears are real. The pain might even be genuine, but it's weaponized. They've learned that vulnerability, when performed correctly, is more powerful than aggression. Poor me, always suffering. And you become exhausted trying to heal someone who needs their wounds to survive. But their victimhood goes even deeper. Passive aggression. The covert narcissist rarely confronts directly. That would be too obvious, too easily called out. Instead, they've mastered the art of passive aggression, hurting you while maintaining plausible deniability. You feel the hostility, but you can't prove it exists. It comes in many forms. The backhanded compliment: "You look great today, I almost didn't recognize you." The convenient forgetfulness: "Oh, your birthday dinner was tonight. I completely forgot." The subtle sabotage: "I was going to tell you about the job opening, but I didn't think you'd be interested." The covert narcissist stabs you in the back while looking you in the eyes. When you confront them, they gaslight you. "You're being too sensitive. You're reading too much into it. I was just joking, can't you take a joke?" This creates a maddening dynamic. You know something is wrong, but you cannot prove what. You feel the anger, the resentment, the hostility, but it's always disguised just enough that you question your own perception. Over time, you start to feel crazy. You apologize for calling out behavior that hurt you. And the covert narcissist, they watch with satisfaction, knowing they've successfully made you doubt yourself. Speaking of making you doubt yourself, the envy engine. Beneath the surface of every covert narcissist burns an intense, consuming envy. This is one of the defining features that researchers like Dr. Glenn Gabbard have identified, a chronic, painful envy of others that they can never openly admit. Jealousy, resentment, bitterness. They don't celebrate your successes, they diminish them. Got a promotion? Well, corporate jobs are soul-crushing anyway. Found a loving partner? Just wait, the honeymoon phase always ends. Published a book? Must be nice to have that kind of free time. They cannot tolerate your joy because it highlights what they believe they lack. Your happiness becomes evidence of their failure. But here's where it gets twisted. They also can't admit to feeling envious. Envy would mean acknowledging that someone else has something valuable. So they disguise it as concern, as realism, as just being honest with you. They'll say they're just looking out for you. They'll claim they don't want you to get hurt. But what they really can't stand is seeing you shine. Envy is the art of counting other people's blessings instead of your own. And if you keep succeeding despite their subtle discouragement, that's when things get really dark. Grandiose fantasy. Here's what makes the covert narcissist so confusing. They seem modest. They downplay their accomplishments. They might even put themselves down. But beneath this humble exterior lies a grandiose fantasy, a secret belief that they are exceptional, misunderstood, and destined for greatness. Superior. They believe they are smarter than their coworkers, more talented than their peers, more deep and complex than ordinary people. The only reason they haven't achieved their destined greatness. Everyone else. The world doesn't recognize their genius. Society is too shallow. People are threatened by their potential. Misunderstood, genius unappreciated. This creates a fascinating contradiction. They present as humble while internally believing they are extraordinary. They complain about not being recognized while expecting special treatment. They are simultaneously the underdog and the uncrowned king. Psychologist Joseph Burgo calls this the secret superiority of the covert narcissist. And it leaks out in subtle ways. The condescending tone when explaining something simple, the dismissal of popular things as beneath them, the quiet judgment of everyone around them. I'm not arrogant. I'm just better than everyone else and they can't handle it. But what happens when reality threatens this fantasy? Hypersensitivity. Try to give a covert narcissist constructive feedback. Watch what happens. Even the gentlest criticism triggers a disproportionate response. They might withdraw completely. They might sulk for days. They might turn it around and make you the villain for hurting them. Their ego shatters at the slightest touch. This hypersensitivity to criticism is another hallmark of covert narcissism. Research by Dr. Jonathan Cheek found that covert narcissists score extremely high on measures of vulnerability and sensitivity, but not in a healthy way. It's not emotional attunement. It's ego fragility. Fragile, defensive, wounded. Any suggestion that they are less than perfect triggers a narcissistic injury, a wound to their grandiose self-image. And because they can't process this injury in a healthy way, they respond with either withdrawal or counterattack. They dish out criticism freely, but cannot take an ounce. You learn to walk on eggshells. You edit yourself constantly. You stop sharing honest feedback because the aftermath isn't worth it. And slowly, the relationship becomes one-sided. You manage their emotions while yours are ignored. But their hypersensitivity masks something even more troubling. Empathy void. Perhaps the most painful discovery about the covert narcissist is this. They cannot truly empathize with you. They can mimic empathy. They know the right words. They might even cry at sad movies. But when it comes to genuinely understanding and caring about your emotional experience, there's a void. Empty. Neuroscience research has shown that narcissists have reduced activity in brain regions associated with empathy. They cognitively understand that others have feelings, but they don't emotionally connect with those feelings. The narcissist knows you're in pain. They just don't care the way you need them to. With the covert narcissist, this lack of empathy is especially confusing because they seem sensitive. They talk about their own feelings extensively. They present as emotionally aware. But notice, whose emotions are they aware of? Their pain matters, yours does not. When you're hurting, They either make it about themselves, minimize your pain, or compete with their own suffering. You had a bad day, but theirs was somehow always worse. You end up feeling unseen, unheard, and fundamentally alone in the relationship, even when they are sitting right next to you. And this emptiness extends into every connection they have. Isolation tactics. The covert narcissist doesn't demand that you stop seeing your friends. That would be too obvious. Instead, they use subtle tactics to gradually isolate you. They express concern about certain friends. They feel hurt when you spend time with family instead of them. They have a crisis every time you have plans. They do not forbid connections. They simply make them exhausting. Over time, maintaining other relationships becomes so difficult that you slowly stop trying. It's easier to just stay home. It's less drama to cancel plans. And before you know it, your support network has shrunk, and they're the only one left, alone with only them. This isolation serves a crucial purpose. Without outside perspective, you have no one to reality check your experience. No one to tell you that the way they treat you isn't normal. No one to remind you of who you were before you met them. Therapist Shannon Thomas calls this toxic triangulation, but in reverse. Instead of bringing people in to manipulate you, they push people out to control you. The narcissist thrives when you have no one to compare them to. But there's one more tactic that makes escape feel impossible. Guilt weaponry. Guilt is the covert narcissist's primary weapon. They've perfected the art of making you feel responsible for their emotional state, their failures, their unhappiness, everything. You become a prisoner of their manufactured suffering. Want to set a boundary? You're abandoning them when they need you most. Want to pursue your own goals? You're being selfish while they sacrifice everything for you. Want to leave the relationship? After all they've done for you, how could you? After everything I did for you. This guilt tripping is devastatingly effective. It keeps you trapped in an endless cycle of trying to prove you care, trying to make up for perceived wrongs, trying to be good enough. You spend your life apologizing for crimes you never committed. Psychologist Dr. George Simon calls this the guilt trip, a manipulation tactic that exploits your conscience against you. The covert narcissist knows you're a good person. They know you feel responsible for others' well-being, and they use that against you relentlessly. Guilt is the cage built with your own conscience. You're not selfish. You're not abandoning them. You're simply trying to survive. But recognizing this pattern is only the first step. Breaking free. So how do you protect yourself from the covert narcissist? How do you break free from their invisible web? First, trust your reality. If you consistently feel confused, guilty, and exhausted in a relationship, that's data. Your experience is valid even when they tell you it isn't. Second, rebuild your support network. Reconnect with friends and family you've drifted from. Get an outside perspective. Let others remind you of your worth. The truth becomes clearer when you are no longer alone. Third, set boundaries and expect pushback. The covert narcissist will escalate when you start protecting yourself. They'll play the victim harder. They'll guilt trip more intensely. This is not a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that your boundaries are working. Your boundaries are valid. Fourth, consider whether the relationship can be saved at all. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. With overt narcissists, the abuse is obvious. With covert narcissists, you might spend years wondering if you're the problem. You're not. Recognizing the pattern is the first step toward freedom. The covert narcissist is dangerous precisely because they don't look dangerous. They wear sensitivity like armor. They weaponize vulnerability. They hurt you while convincing everyone, including yourself, that they are the one being hurt. See the truth now, but now you know the signs, the chronic victimhood, the passive aggression, the burning envy disguised as concern, the grandiose fantasy hidden beneath false humility, the hypersensitivity that makes you walk on eggshells, the empathy void that leaves you feeling alone, the isolation tactics that cut you off from support, the guilt that keeps you trapped. Knowledge is the first step toward freedom from invisible chains. Understanding this pattern doesn't just protect you from others, it helps you understand yourself. Because sometimes we enable these dynamics. Sometimes we're drawn to people who need saving. Sometimes our own wounds make us vulnerable to those who exploit kindness. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Healing means recognizing these patterns in others and in ourselves. Welcome to the Psyche Project. If this opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe for more deep dives into the human psyche.